So, as I talk about who's going to make the playoffs and who's going to miss, bright light, bright light. No, I don't like that one. That's better. So, as I talk about who's going to make the playoffs and who's going to miss, people are going to get mad at me over this as we go along. People are going to get really angry. You'll notice, too, on the board behind me, I've got the Capitals in no man's land, and we've got the Canucks down here. I'm going to put them on the board where I think they're going to finish as I do the preview videos. Two reasons. One, because it's kind of cool to see the standings virtually appear. And yet there's nothing virtual about it. It's not CGI. It's a real board, people. I don't believe in CGI. I believe real graphics and using your hands. And also, hopefully along the way you guys can understand why I've got teams where I've got them. Now, the Hockey News is already giving you guys a preview of where they think things are going to be. So let's take a look at what the Hockey News is saying. This is from Matt Larkin's article from it was from last week. Asking which teams will rotate in and which teams will rotate out. They're picking Boston to rotate out because Paul Postma was the biggest signing. And in the Hockey News magazine, which I've got right here, the fact Paul Postma was their highest profile addition gives you an indication of how idle the Bruins were in the early days of free agency. Signed to a low-risk one-year deal of $725 grand. Paul Postma is a depth defender and likely slots into the number 7 spot for Joe Morrow, who left for Montreal. So it doesn't sound alarming in the magazine, yet here it says, that's the extent of Don Sweeney's offseason moving and shaking so far, which is alarming considering the Bruins squeaked into the postseason by 1 point over Tampa. The Lightning lost Jonathan Drouin, but added Chris Kunitz, possibly Michael Sergachev, and a healthy Steven Stamkos, while the Leafs picked up Patrick Marleau, Ron Hainsey, and from the Bruins, Dominic Moore. The Bruins have stood pat thus far. They absolutely became a different team under mid-season replacement coach Bruce Cassidy last season, going 18-8-1. And they remain a force in the possession game thanks to the dominant play of Patrice Bergeron and Brad Marchand. But depth is a real concern all over Boston's lineup. And then they talk about how Charlie McAvoy is a Calder Trophy candidate. He looked great in his playoff debut. He's an elite prospect. But again, it's worrisome when a playoff team must bank on a youngster to succeed in a high-leverage role. Didn't the Leafs do that? Doesn't matter. San Jose, they're projecting are going to miss the playoffs. While I can see Boston, I can't see San Jose. The Sharks, like the Bruins, have done next to nothing this offseason, and they lost Marleau. Many of the impact players are long in the tooth now. Joe Thornton re-signed for $8 million. Is 38 and recovering from ACL and MCL tears. Pavelski just turned 33. Burns is 32. Martin and Ward are 36. Many of the Sharks' core pieces are exiting their primes. Logan Couture isn't, though. Couture is an absolute warrior, and I think he could drag San Jose to the playoffs by himself if he felt like it. That's a problem when the Calgary Flames and Edmonton Oilers have emerged as rising powers in the Pacific. I'll get into Calgary later, but rising power for Calgary, again, going from Elliott and Johnson to Smith and Lack, there's an issue I have with that. The Ducks are armed with a great young decor and dominant number 1 center. Won't relinquish top 3 spot in that division. Sharks likely need to cross over berth to snag a playoff spot. So they're saying they have to be a wild card ahead of the Central. And the Central's really strong, and I project that in my standings as well. Their third projection, here we go. Get ready. It's Ottawa. I expect Ottawa to remain competitive again, even though it'll probably continue posting subpar possession numbers after finishing 22nd in 5-on-5 Corsi percentage last season. It's very difficult to imagine Tampa Bay not returning to the playoffs. The Bulls missed the playoffs by 1 point last year. The Hurricanes looked vastly improved over in the Metropolitan Division and could steal a wild card spot from that side. The Sens are fresh off a grueling, overachieving postseason run, and teams around them improved, while they aren't guaranteed to do the same unless their rookies blow expectations out of the water. They could play close to as well as last year and simply get by Tampa Bay, forcing the Sens to scratch and claw for the number 8 seed. Again, I don't want to give away where I have my standings, but they're a lot more down on Ottawa than I am. He's projecting the Lightning to finish 2nd in the Atlantic or 3rd in the East. It's a no-brainer, right? I interviewed Victor Hedman a couple weeks ago, and he put it best. We had 1 point less than we did the year before, and we were 2nd in our division last year. Touche, the Lightning were almost as productive a club as they were the year prior. despite losing Steven Stamkos to a torn meniscus in November. Stamkos is just 27, so he should return to big-time offensive production as long as he stays on the ice. See, and you don't know. You don't know coming back that long, and this is not the first time he's had a long layoff with injury. You don't know what you're getting with Stamkos. The Bolts' blue line looks thin, and we must be careful about anointing Sergachev a 25-minute-a-night starter when he has 4 games of pro hockey to his name. I think Sergachev will be a top 4. I don't think he'll be a top 2. Not yet, obviously. And it's a good thing they have a good coach down there, so it shouldn't be a problem. They're projecting Dallas to get into the playoffs. Take the same team, restore its health, then add Radulov, Bishop, Hansel, and Mark Mathot. Come on, we don't have to overthink this one. The Stars look good now. And they do. The depth is fantastic. The no team made splashier improvements in the offseason. The Stars could ice the NHL's best line with Sagan between Ben and Radulov. I think they'll spread it around. I think they'll try Sagan on a different line. I think they'll try Radulov. I think they're going to move around because you don't want all of your best offensive weapons on one line. Take it from a Canuck fan. I look down at my Sharks jersey like, oh boy, this doesn't look right to people who are just browsing in. Add Ken Hitchcock as a new coach. You have a winning formula. Hitchcock has a history of getting very good seasons out of his teams the first year or two he's there. So while people are going to say, oh, he's got a low shelf life, true, but he has a history of getting a team to play really, really well that first year. The Hurricanes were already trending up this summer. They have a pair of the NHL's best young defense. They have one of the NHL's best young defense groups. Slavin and Pesce emerged as a premier shutdown pair. Justin Falk and Noah Hannafin round out a powerhouse top 4 with an average of 22.5. And Hannafin, his numbers are a little troublesome, but this should be his breakout year. Hayden Fleury, the 7th overall pick in 2014, could make the team this year, and puck mover Jake Bean is marinating too. Defensemen take longer, so I think Bean will have another year in the minors. Carolina improved from 27th in goals to 20th last year, largely because rookie Sebastian Aho arrived on the scene and sniped 24. So, you know, this team's offensive blue line were on the rise, and then GM Francis added Justin Williams, Marcus Kruger, Trevor Van Riemsdyk, and goalie Scott Darling. And they had an 87-point season last year, strong numbers, and he's projecting that Carolina is going to finish 5th in the Metropolitan Division, 8th in the East, and make the playoffs. So again, I don't want to give away where my playoffs are going, but I can see where he's coming from with every team. I think San Jose's going to make the playoffs. But I think the number of teams that make the playoffs that didn't last year for me, I've got 1, 2, 3. I've got 3. And we're going to be wrong. He's going to be wrong. I'm going to be wrong. There'll probably be more than 3. And fans of teams that didn't make it and make it are going to be very happy. Let's just go through the meet the new guy thing here. For Buffalo, they say key piece in the Sabres trade was Marco Scandella. He was buried in the Wild's depth chart, play a more prominent role in the Sabres. Could partner with Ristolainen on Buffalo's top pair. If Scandella's your top 2 defenseman, I don't know. I have my doubts. Carolina, the new guy is an old guy, Justin Williams. So they talk about him being Mr. Game 7. Columbus, they talk about Panarin, but then they say the ascent of rookie Gabriel Carlsson is big. The smart kid with the big reach played 2 games at the end of 16-17, plus all 5 playoff contests, and he'll push Nudavara for ice time. They made a big deal about Nudavara when he made his debut for Columbus last year. I don't see it. I don't. You guys can let me know in the comment section below because I just don't see it. Florida, it's tough to portray a 28-year-old who's already played there as the new guy, but Dadonov returns to the Panthers from Russia as a legitimate offensive threat. We'll see. We'll see. I was kind of surprised he didn't go to Vegas where he knows he's got chemistry with Shipachev, but we'll see. Montreal, of course, they have Kyle Alsner in here, strictly a defensive defenseman with little offensive upside. He won't help the Canadiens' transition game, which is a growing concern. And I've said that as well on this channel numerous times. New Jersey, Washington's cap pain was Jersey's gain, as the Devils nabbed Marcus Johansson for a song. That's the steal of the summer. Ryan Pulock may finally get a chance with the Islanders. They haven't heard, yeah, we've heard that before. Rangers, it pays to know the local kid. New York landed the most coveted free agent in the market, and New Rochelle's Kevin Shattenkirk. And now Captain Ryan McDonough gets an elite right shot D partner. Again, we'll see. If Guy Boucher isn't Ottawa's head coach, there's a good chance Nate Thompson doesn't sign with the Senators. So he signed there because he knows Boucher from Tampa. Philly, yes, it's ominous that the Flyers' big signing was a goalie who struggled in the playoffs, but Brian Elliott has surprised in the past. He took most of the blame for Calgary's first-round loss to Anaheim and needs to bounce back. The upside, he plays his best when fighting for starts, which he'll do with incumbent Michael Neuwirth. If he's fighting with Neuwirth for starts, Philly's out by December. Pittsburgh, of course, Ryan Reeves is the one. I've talked about that. Tampa, Chris Kunitz. Only 9 players in modern NHL history have hoisted the cup with 3 different teams. The Lightning are hoping Chris Kunitz becomes the 10th. He turns 38 in September, so he probably won't be on the first 2 lines. If he is, Tampa's done too. The Leafs, well, that's Patrick Marleau. We've discussed Marleau to death. Washington, the most important stat involving Devontae Smith-Pelly is the salary, just $650,000. The hardworking winger won't light up the marquee, but he comes cheap, and that's crucial for the Capitals. They try to navigate the salary cap, and I went through that in my preview that I did tonight. Washington lost a ton of talent in the summer with no other gains than Smith-Pelly. And then they get into the West. Ryan Miller, I've discussed that. Ryan Miller with Anaheim. Derek Stepan with the Arizona Coyotes. I almost said Phoenix. Scored 21 goals. There was no pressure back then, and as it turned out, he topped that total just once in the next 6 seasons. So he had 21 goals as a rookie. And he just turned 27, so he can turn it around. The Flames took a calculated risk going with 35-year-old Mike Smith this season, but they hedged a bit by picking up Eddie Lack as the backup. The 29-year-old had a pair of solid seasons in Vancouver prior to joining Carolina. What's more, the Canes are picking up half of Lack's $2.75 million ticket. He had one good season in Vancouver and a good second half of a season his second year in Vancouver. His first half was horrible. So I love Eddie Lack. I hope he turns it around in Calgary, but he is a slow starter. And in today's game, you can't afford to have a slow starter. Chicago, the 17-18 Hawks will look more like the 14-15 Hawks. They reacquire Brandon Saad. And they lose Panarin, and that's troublesome, and we'll see that when I get to the season preview for that. The Avs bolstered their top 9 forward group with a reclamation project, Colin Wilson. And then they got another reclamation project in Nail Yakupov. So if you're a reclamation project, come on down to the Colorado Avalanche Emporium and get a deal from Joe Sakic, because all the one of them should work. That's the thing. Sakic will look like a genius when one of them works. I don't know that all of them are going to, but if all of them work, then Sakic's a genius, and I'll take back everything I've said about him for the last while. And Wilson, I don't know. He's strong, but they're saying he's another power forward to complement Gabriel Landeskog. Landeskog couldn't score for long stretches last year either. The Stars won the offseason by shoring up their goaltending with Ben Bishop, Mark Mathot, and they talk about Radulov. And I hate seeing won the offseason because I've seen teams win the offseason and do nothing in the regular season. I'm not saying Dallas will do that, but it scares me. Edmonton. Expectations have been sky high for Ryan Strome since he was drafted 5th overall by the Islanders. But after a breakout 50-point season as an NHL sophomore, he's been producing like a fringe third liner. And I don't think Strome is a top 6 guy. I think he's a good fringe guy. Like they said, you're a third liner. And there's nothing wrong with that. Edmonton needed a little bit of a cap saving looking ahead. And I think Strome may complement their forwards better than Eberle did. LA, the circle of life sometimes lands you back where it began. Mike Camilleri is back in LA 15 seasons after making his debut. And it's troublesome that LA's big signing was Camilleri. Not that he won't do well in LA, but they needed more than that, and they needed to get faster. The fact they were chasing Joe Thornton just... LA thinks they're close. We'll see when the season starts whether they're actually right about that. The Wild, they hope Tyler Ennis returns to speedy, shifty form that made him a first-round pick in 2008. I don't know. I don't think Sabres fans are upset that Ennis is gone, so... The Predators. Predators needed to get stronger at center after losing to Pittsburgh in the Cup final. Well, yeah, they didn't have Johansson. If they had Johansson, that final could have been completely different. So they signed one of the Penguins centers, Nick Bonino. He's clutch with 3 career playoff overtime winners, and he's gutsy, finishing Game 2 of the final with what turned out to be a broken tibia, sustained blocking a shot. And Bonino is a gutsy guy. And he's got that awesome Amish beard, which I hope he never cuts. Never take away the Amish beard from Bonino. It's awesome. But all kidding aside, I don't know how much offensive upside is there. I think he got overestimated and overrated as a Penguin, as he was underrated as a Canuck. I think he's somewhere in the middle, and it's really going to be interesting to see if Nashville's happy with what they get out of him. Marcus Sorensen's 25 and just barely eligible for the Calder Trophy. Left winger played 19 games for the Sharks this past season and impressed in the AHL with 34 points in 43 games. There are roster spots available, and the early line is the undersized sharpshooter will crack the lineup. And I think LeBanc is another one that I would look forward to with San Jose this year if you're going to look at young guys. I know LeBanc. I don't think LeBanc qualifies for Calder because I think he played too many games, but it's an interesting one. The Blues lost too much size and physicality up front when Backus and Brouwer departed last summer. They got some of that back by trading for Braden Shen. He can play left wing or center. Will compete for the coveted top-line gig with Vladimir Tarasenko on the right side. I don't see Shen as a first-line center. I'm just throwing that out there. I just don't see it. Vancouver, if Sam Gagner wants to get acclimated to Vancouver, he can talk to his teammates or just call his dad. Dave Gagner spent a half season with the Canucks at the end of his 15-year NHL career. It was not a good half season either. The interesting part was the Canucks got Jovanovski from Florida. They insisted on Gagner. Burke insisted on Dave Gagner being in there. We had to have Dave Gagner, and Gagner was not a good fit for Vancouver, and Jovanovski, well, he ended up being an Olympian after joining the Canucks. Vegas. Shipachyov isn't just a new face in Vegas. He's new around the NHL. He's 30. More playmaker than scorer, which is a problem because who's he passing to? Is he passing to Riley Smith? Marchessault? Well, he's a center, so I can't see him with Marchessault unless Marchessault's on the wing. It'll be interesting. I'll project out Vegas's roster, and we'll go over that when I do the Vegas preview, which probably won't be very long because I'm kind of excited about the Vegas preview. The Jets thought Connor Hellebuck was their goalie of the present, but he struggled in 16-17. He becomes the goalie of the future, and I've talked about goalie of the future being the kiss of death. I hope I'm wrong here, but goalie of the future is usually the kiss of death. I could go through almost any magazine behind this board and point out goalie of the future that never happened. Whether it's Justin Pogge, Andre Rasico, Kevin Weeks. There have been a lot of guys who goalie of the future, and then it didn't happen. The future came and went. Aria Honan in New Jersey. Goalie of the future if Brodeur falters. Never played a game. So goalie of the future is the kiss of death. Steve Mason signed at a starter's annual salary of $4.1 million, which tells us Hellebuck has been demoted to backup goalie of the future. It's right in there, backup goalie of the future. Mason's deal is just 2 years long, and he's expected to mentor Hellebuck. That's got to suck for Connor Hellebuck, man. I know he didn't have a great year, but now he's got 2 years behind Mason. So let me know what you guys think. Which mover and shaker you think is going to move up? Which one's moving down? You Philly fans are going to talk about the Flyers, and rightfully so. And Islanders fans are going to be upset that the Islanders weren't mentioned in that article or talked up very much in the Hockey News either, and rightfully so. Let me know why you guys are upset. Let me know why you guys are upset about what I'm wearing, Ducks and Sharks. My reason is this. Yvonne's out right now, so I didn't know I had to coordinate, so there's that. If my jersey and hat don't match, I'm probably home by myself, and nobody was here to dress me. You guys can debate that in the comment section below as well. To any and all haters gotta hate. That's what they do. And I move on, and I am very excited about where this channel's been, where this channel's going, and with the fact that we're looking at 10,000 subs being that close. That close. And this channel has to be on somebody's radar. And not just the networks that are trying to pick me up. Not TV networks, but like YouTube networks. It's got to be on somebody's radar. So, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you again soon. Hit like and subscribe. I apologize this video is a little bit longer than some of the other ones. The season previews are going to be longer. Some of this is going to be longer because there's so much more to squash in there. Thanks for watching. Thanks for making it to the end. I'll talk to you guys again soon.